Becoming cold protects you, but it also isolates you. No one talks about that part. People see the strength, the silence, the unshakable mindset, but they never see what it costs in the background. Coldness is armor, yes, but armor gets heavy when you wear it for too long. The first cost is isolation. Not physical isolation, emotional. You can sit in a room full of people and feel nothing. Not connection, not warmth, not belonging. The walls you built to keep the wrong people out also keep the right ones at a distance. You don't do it intentionally. Your mind just doesn't trust easily anymore. Every time someone tries to get close, you flinch internally, waiting for the moment they prove you right about people. Then comes over-independence, the kind that looks admirable from the outside, but is rooted in pain. You become someone who never asks for help, not because you're strong, but because you learned that relying on others often leads to disappointment. You convince yourself that needing nothing from anyone makes you invincible. But deep down, a part of you wonders what it would feel like to actually lean on someone without fear. And the hardest cost? Difficulty forming new bonds. The cold version of you is calculated, observant, guarded. Before trusting someone, you analyze them like a threat. Before opening up, you test their consistency. Before letting someone in, you look for red flags, and sometimes you see them even when they aren't there. Your heart has become a room with a locked door, and you keep the key in your pocket, convincing yourself it's better this way. But the truth is, being cold makes you safe, not fulfilled. It makes you stable, not connected. It makes you powerful, but sometimes painfully alone. Coldness sharpens your mind, but it can starve your heart, and you don't notice it at first. You move through life with control, precision, emotional discipline. But somewhere late at night, when the noise fades and your guard drops for a moment, you feel it. That quiet ache. The one that reminds you that you weren't built to be untouched. You weren't built to be unreachable. The cost of becoming cold isn't your heart turning hollow. It's forgetting what warmth feels like. And yet, the story doesn't end here. Because after understanding the cost, there comes a point where coldness can be transformed into something stronger, something cleaner, something that doesn't destroy you, but rebuilds you. Coldness is not the final form. It's the transition stage, the space between who you were and who you're becoming. The darkness isn't meant to consume you. It's meant to refine you. And if you learn to use it, that coldness becomes something far more powerful than protection. It becomes self-mastery. You don't warm up by becoming soft again. You warm up by becoming precise. This is where you take all the pain, the detachment, the emotional discipline, and you shape it into clarity. Suddenly, you see people for who they are, not who you wanted them to be. You stop romanticizing potential. You stop ignoring your intuition. Your coldness sharpens your judgment. And for the first time, you walk into situations with your eyes open. Your focus becomes lethal. Distractions stop pulling you. Manipulators stop tricking you. You become someone who can walk alone without feeling lonely, because now your solitude is a choice, not a wound. Resilience grows in the space where emotion used to overwhelm you. The heartbreak that once broke you now becomes evidence that you can survive anything. You stop collapsing under pressure. You stop bending for people who wouldn't bend for you. You stop apologizing for prioritizing your peace. But the real transformation is quiet. You learn how to feel without drowning, how to care without losing yourself, how to love without handing someone a weapon to destroy you. Coldness becomes strength when you control instead of letting it control you. When you allow yourself to be detached, but not numb, guarded, but not unreachable, strong, but not hardened beyond repair, you become someone who chooses where your energy goes, someone who protects your heart without burying it, someone who doesn't break easily, not because you don't feel, but because you finally understand your worth. Turning cold into strength means mastering your own emotional temperature, not freezing the world out, just refusing to let it burn you again. This is the moment where the villain becomes the strategist, the wounded one becomes the observer, the broken one becomes unshakable, and the darkness you once feared, it becomes the foundation of the person you were always meant to become. In the end, becoming cold was never about losing your heart. It was about reclaiming it. You didn't shut down because you're weak. You shut down because you finally understood your value. You finally realized that not everyone deserves access to your energy, your kindness, or your emotions. Coldness was the bridge, but strength is the destination. And now you stand in a place where few ever reach. A place where your past no longer controls you, where people's opinions no longer define you, where your silence is power and your boundaries are unbreakable. Just remember one thing. You are not the villain for protecting yourself. You are not wrong for evolving. You are not heartless for choosing peace over chaos. This version of you, clear, focused, controlled, self-made, is not the result of darkness destroying you, but darkness shaping you. Walk forward with that strength. Walk forward with that clarity, and let the world adjust to the new you, because you're never going back to who you were. Not after everything you survived. Inside every person who feels stuck, there's a war that no one else can hear. A war between the parts of them that crave rest and the parts that refuse to stop. One part whispers, slow down. Another responds, you can't. One part aches to be honest. Another part fears what honesty might break. This conflict becomes a loop. The same thoughts spinning, the same emotions repeating. A carousel of unfinished sentences and unresolved memories. Like a clock with two gears turning in opposite directions. They want to express their pain, but they worry it will make them look weak. They want to ask for help, but they don't want to burden anyone. They want to scream, but they don't want to disrupt the peace they've worked so hard to maintain. And so they resist. They resist rest. They resist vulnerability. They resist acknowledging what hurts. Resistance becomes routine. Routine becomes identity. Identity becomes prison. The worst part is not the grief itself. It is the confusion. The contradiction of feeling both too much and nothing at all, of wanting healing but refusing to let go of the hurt, because the hurt feels like the only thing that still connects them to what they lost. This inner conflict exhausts them, but they keep going, not because they are strong, but because stopping feels dangerous. Pain becomes familiar. Silence becomes protective. Stillness becomes survival. And so the war continues, quietly, fiercely, endlessly, inside a person who looks completely fine. The turning point never arrives as a miracle. It arrives as a whisper, a moment, soft and almost unnoticeable, when something inside loosens, a breath that feels slightly deeper than the last, a thought that doesn't hurt as much as before. A memory that no longer cuts, only stings. It happens on an ordinary day. A walk home, a quiet morning, a random conversation. Something shifts. The person realizes that although their internal time stopped, the world did not expect them to remain stuck. No one is demanding perfection. No one is counting their missing hours. In this small realization, something extraordinary occurs. The gears begin to move again, not smoothly, not consistently, not dramatically, just slightly. They may feel a sudden urge to clean their room, or to step outside for air, or to talk to someone they trust, or to simply allow themselves to feel one true emotion, instead of suppressing all of them. This is the moment the clock speaks, not in words, in rhythm, a quiet return of internal movement, a reminder that healing is not the act of forgetting what froze them, but remembering that they are allowed to move despite it. The pain doesn't vanish. The memories don't erase. The cracks don't disappear. But the person realizes something powerful. Broken clocks can still move. They just tick differently. And in that difference lies the beginning of a new kind of time. Healing is not a straight path. It is a wandering rhythm, sometimes steady, sometimes paused, sometimes almost invisible. But it begins with permission. Permission to feel. Permission to pause. Permission to not be the strong one all the time. A person who once carried the world begins to carry themselves. Slowly, carefully, honestly, they learn to sit with their emotions. Instead of locking them inside silent rooms, they begin noticing small joys, a beam of sunlight, a familiar song, a moment of genuine laughter, not because these things fix anything, but because they remind them that life is still happening, around and within them. Integration is the gentle acceptance that the broken clock will never return to its original form, and doesn't need to. The cracks become part of its design. The pauses become part of its wisdom. The scars become evidence of its strength. People often look for healing as a dramatic transformation, but true healing is quieter. The ability to exist without fighting yourself. The ability to feel without drowning. The ability to move without forcing. Time becomes softer. Life becomes gentler. The heart becomes more spacious. And slowly, the person realizes they are not returning to who they were. They are becoming someone who understands time more deeply, more compassionately, because they once lived inside the silence. Every broken clock holds a story, not of failure, but of endurance. To pause is not to fall behind. To shatter is not to lose worth. To break is not an end. Time has many languages, and sometimes the most human one is silence. The person who once froze learns that movement does not require perfection. It only requires softness, a willingness to take one small step. Between one quiet moment and the next, their life expands again, not quickly, but truthfully, and the hidden pain that once controlled them becomes a reminder of everything they survived. This is not a return to old time. It is the birth of a new rhythm, a rhythm that breathes, a rhythm that forgives, a rhythm that belongs entirely to them.